were redos. Like I corrected some of the stuff.
So put it in the late or missing folder. I'll just check right now. So Jeanette, is everything current?
Yeah, so I turned in the flags for this.
What did I do with the folder for this class? I moved everything around and now I can't find anything. Yeah, weird. I wonder what I did with that. Maybe I stuffed it in here. Okay. Okay, Leo. Okay, this looks really good. You did exactly what I wanted you to. The little flip over looks good. The creases look good. It's moving in one direction. You don't have anything moving backwards. That's good. It looks good. Thank you, Leo. Hands for Leo. Just for my interest's sake, how long did it take you to do this?
About, it took me like an hour to go back through recording to like go step by step.
Yeah.
And then after that, like probably 40 minutes to try to make everything look nice.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Uh-oh. Now, why did I say uh-oh? Anybody want to guess?
Did I label it wrong?
No.
Text on the flag.
Yeah.
Good. Did you say not to do that?
No, well, sort of, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember.
It was an experiment.
We'll see it. Usually when you try to do an emblem or a design or anything on something that's moving, that's fabric, like, or like even a piece of paper, it becomes an animation nightmare.
Yeah.
The biggest example I can think of here was in Aladdin. The carpet was hand drawn, hand animated whenever you saw the carpet flying around. And then they digitally mapped the texture onto the carpet frame by frame. All right, so let's take a look. No, I think you got it working pretty good. Okay. So my question to you is, how long did it take you to map the letters onto the flag?
Maybe like 30 minutes.
30 minutes, not too bad.
Because I kind of just did it and then like edited it.
Yeah, I think it's believable. I think it's working. I think it's working pretty well. You know, I'll give you extra credit for putting the words on there. It's not the easiest thing to do. So my intuition is that you got brave, and then you took a chance, you took that risk, and because your head was in it, you just kind of figured it out. And I don't want to get into your head, but my intuition was like, you saw that the whole portion of the flag was moving up here and the
Mhm.
bottom was too, so you brought the parts with it.
Mhm.
The little green ribbon kind of helps divide up that space as well. It's pretty good. Thank you, Elise. Very good.
Thank you.
Oops. Santiago. Okay, looks good. The first thing I always look for in the loop is if anything is accidentally going backwards. And I don't see that. I think that you followed the example pretty good here. It looks good. Yeah, it looks good. Hands for Santiago. Okay. You guys are making it easy on me tonight. Saley?
Uh-oh, it looks like I screwed up the layer.
Oh, you forgot to turn off your arc?
Yeah.
That's
Sorry about
okay. So just put another version in there. Okay, this works too. I like how you have the different colors. I think that it would be just a little better if you put the crease in there a little more strongly.
Yeah, I had a better version and like the file got like deleted, so I kind of just had to like speed run this one. So
Yeah.
it's not that great.
Well, I think it's working pretty well. Yeah, I think it's working. It's like your attempt, you did it, and now the idea would be is that the director or me would just come back in there and say, okay, now I want like a ribbon flag or something, or you might want to extend the cycle out to 16 frames and make it just a little different, but it's working. Thank you, Zaylee. Okay, good. So I'm going to just pick on this one just for a second because what you have is working really well, but there's a tiny little thing that's just a little bit unbelievable, and that is that the string, the rope that's holding the flag is so perfectly tight. If you thought about it, the rope that brings it up and brings it down would be shaking a little bit. So if you thought about it, one way to improve this is to take that rope and to just bend it just a little bit. Every other frame, bend, just to get a little wiggle in it.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it because this is the first time I've looked up what it actually looks like, because I was like, oh, how does that mechanism sort of work?
Yeah.
So I didn't really think about that bit moving
Yeah,
around,
it looks
which
good.
makes sense.
And then you have another one. You try the ribbon flag. Good.
Yeah, I don't like the end bit. I wanted to rework it a little bit, but I ran out of time.
Well, it's working. I think that the arc that you've got, and sometimes what I'll do is if we're in class, because I can't do this because I'm going to annotate this, but I'm going to look at this and I'm going to just guess. Let me see if it'll actually allow me to just draw over this. Oh, okay, it's working. So one thing that I see here is that you've got like a circle 8 that's going like this, right?
Yeah, I drew one of those and I kind of followed it, but I think I don't know what I did wrong.
No, I'll show you. I think everything's working except that. So you've got like a circle 8 that's working like this. Oh, look, I almost got it perfectly. Right? You've got this little thing, this little butterfly that's happening here. And one of the things is that as the end of the ribbon flag is going out to the extreme here to the east, right? I think that what would happen is that the flag would be bending around and then getting to the extreme position. So if you thought about it, that would be one way to improve this. The other way to improve this would be is that there's kind of a magic thing happening here where this very long ribbon flag has a wind that's blowing and a steady wind. It's only about 15 miles an hour or so, but it's keeping this thing up in the air. And one way that I think that you could really just take what you've got and improve it is to let this circle 8 be this way. Let the tip of the flag droop down and then come back up again. It might be just a little easier on your eyes. It might be easier for your illusion of life to accept the idea of what the tip of the flag is doing. Because right now the tip of the flag is like, oh, look, I'm going to go that way. You know what I mean? It's like the sharp point of the flag is like, I'm going to go to the right. Instead of like flipping up and flipping down, it's like, oh, I'm going to, the only way it could go to the right is if it was unfurling to the right. But it looks great.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of like a snake versus actually like a flag flapping in the wind. Like it's more like the head of a snake.
No, you're right. And for all of you, the idea of the wave moving from one part of the screen to the other can be applied all over the place. You know, we did a very natural transition between the telephone poles and the lines on the road moving from one position to the other. It's just following. It's just tracking it. It's not the hardest thing. It's just kind of like getting your mind into the place where the parts are going. That's what an animator does. That's what she does. She just keeps in her mind where all the parts are going and where they're going to go, where they came from. If it's got a loop, it's got to make sure that it's going to loop on top of each other. That's what the animator does. And if you are doing it in 2D, you do one pass to do the body, you do one pass to do the arms and the legs, and another pass to do the hair, and you get it to cycle. If you're doing it in 3D, it's the same thing. You set one key here, you set another key there. You get the one part to work, and you get the other part to work, and all the overlapping action on top of each other. But if you're doing it in stop motion, you have to do it on ones or twos, straight ahead, and you have to get it right perfectly the first time. And if you don't, you have to redo the whole shot. See me smiling? Stop motion is really hard. I've only done one little bit of stop motion, and it was, I lost the test. It was like a pre-test of the spider at James and the Giant Peach. They were going to test me to see if I understood stop motion for what was supposed to be Toots in the Upside Down House. But then Miramax pulled the plug on, because it was the same studio that did Nightmare and James. And then Miramax has said, nope, you guys are done. And so it was kind of that was a sad day. Let me pull this over here. All right, thank you. Hi, Hannah Joy. Okay, flag 1. Boop. Okay, looks great. It's almost like I taught you how to do it. We spent 4 hours talking about flag waving, and then all the flags are done really well. That looks great. Now paint it a color and put a background in there and put it on your reel. Looks great. That one. Okay, then there's a second one. Okay, so this is working too. The first thing that nothing's going backwards. It's always the danger. But this one as well, Brianna, if the tip of the flag is pushing out into the right distance, and you might find it just a little more successful if you made that little circle 8 straight up and down like a circle 8. Let it droop a little bit. But technically it's working. It's working really well. Okay, great. Thank you, Brianna. Yay. Two little dots. Ria, you got 2 as well. It's great. I'm going to move this little window right here. I'm going to let it play. You've got enough variation and variety in that right corner to make it believable. And you don't need to fix it or anything, but the danger is that you could make it more pronounced. You see it right there, Ria? You
Yeah.
could make the right corner move around just a little bit more. The upper right is great. And it's working very, very well. All right, this one. Okay, you tried. You tried. How many drawings do you have in this one?
I think I have 8
8, okay.
on 4s.
On 4s. So if you wanted to perfect this, if you wanted to really get this working so that there's something more fun to put on your show reel, I would say that there's a couple of things. First of all, I'll tell you a 30-second story, and that is that the worker guy came to my grandma's house when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and he was supposed to put in new screens on her porch. And my grandma's house was in the greater Cleveland area, right outside of Cleveland. And that was his job. He was supposed to come in and just put new screens on there. And he came back into the kitchen dining room where I was sitting, and grandma was sitting there, and he said, Mrs. O'Malley, the frames for the screen need to be replaced. I can't just put new screens in there. It's going to be a little extra money. And she said, okay. And so after him messing around out there for like 2 hours, he decided he was going to go to the store and get some wood and redo the frames. And so he did that. And then he came back like at the end of the day and he said, Mrs. O'Malley, we have another problem. The frames that the screen frames sit into, the little window frames need to be replaced as well. And it was just like, he did that 2 more times. It was the holding for the screens, the frames for the screens to fit into, the whole thing was warped a little bit. It would have been better for him to just rip out everything and redo it. It would have been cheaper and faster. So sometimes the end of the story is that sometimes it might be easier to just redo the animation here. And when you're redoing the animation, I think that what you want to do is you want to start here and you want to put your keyframe right there. And you say, okay, so I got to go from I'm going to put this one dotted. You got to get from this frame 1 to frame 8, which is about right there. And the same thing. These are all frame 1. And I started to say this a little bit last week, but the idea would be is that that's the crease. This crease has to animate in 8 frames. So you animate it. 8 frames, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And then this is frame 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you just animate the crease first. Remembering that in the first, between the place where it's attached to the flagpole and this point, it's just a line. The crease is just a line. But by the time it gets to here, it's an actual crease. And by the time it gets to here, it's actually rolling over. And so when you drew this, that was kind of the one thing I was trying to explain, was that this place of the crease right here actually swaps out for drawing 6, and then 7 and 8 go behind it, 7 and 8. And the same thing with this one. This becomes 6, and 7 and 8 go behind it. And then just animate that crease first. Just animate the crease first. It might be easier to get your head around it. Extra credit for trying it, just like I promised. All right, thank you, Ria. That's the one thing about this Zoom class, right? All the quiet clapping. It's insane. I want to make you want to go to a basketball game and you want to hear the noise. All right, Timmy, remember, you've got to make these things 1280 by 720. So you're working on your iPad, right? Timmy?
Yep.
So find a way to get these things up to size.
What? I saved it at the 12 at the usual resolution. I don't know why it's like that. Okay.
You made it small.
Okay.
You made it small.
I'm sorry, Billy.
Oh my God, I'm hurt. All right, so I'm gonna put I can't change the size of the player. I'm gonna put my mouse right here. Tell me what's happening, Timmy. Talk to me, Timmy.
It's not consistent. The edges are not consistent. It's a little
The edge of the flag is stuck in space.
Yep.
You know, you've got this little curl over happening and it becomes unbelievable because it's stuck in space. If I put my mouse right there, I told everyone to be careful with this. You get as much wiggle in the end of the flag as possible because that's where it's loosest. That's where the wind is taking most of its effect upon this rectangle of cloth. So you have to go back and not follow that one example online so much and make sure that the end of the flag is actually wiggling around a little bit.
Okay.
This part I think is working. The wave part is working. But this edge of the flag is stuck in 3D space and it bugs your eye. Right?
Yeah, no, I see
One
what
of
you
the
mean.
things that one of my directors was asking me one time about that. I had taken a student, I had done the critique for them, and they did like this really vast improvement. And how did you do that? I'm like, well, I wasn't trying to pat myself on the back or anything, but the idea in my heart was to get mad about animation. And my director was like, what does that mean? Like, get mad when it's not right. Get mad when you see animation in a feature film that's just wrong. It's unappealing, it's jittery, it's rotoscoped, it doesn't look smooth, there's something wrong with it. And then get mad when you're doing something and it's not right. And that's why I said, though, when we get to the walk cycle in this class, I will always give you credit for doing something, whether it's correct or not. When we get to the walk cycles can be really tricky, you know, and I try to do it, the process, so we do one part by one part by one part by one part, and to try to break it up into little pieces so that you can understand it. But invariably, if you've never done a walk cycle before, you get it wrong. And if you get it wrong 4 or 5 times in a row, you're going to get a B from me because you're trying. You've just taught yourself like 8 or 9 different ways to do it, but it's incorrect. You know what I mean? So try it again. Timmy, try it again. All right, Damien. Damien, I know you're here because I let you into the class. Damien. Damien.
He's in the chat. He says, "Hi, Professor."
Hi.
His mic's not working.
So Hannah, what am I going to say?
Bad file name.
Yeah. So I want you to yell at Damien for me. Tell him what it should be. Be brave, Hannah. Just do it.
Let me see. It's like first your name, then the week, and then a couple of letters.
DS_F. Damien, you're in trouble. Your file name. Hopefully he just said sorry, right?
He said he tried renaming it, but it didn't work.
Well, then rename it and put it back up in the class. All right, so just before we even play this, I worry because there are different shape flags out there in the real world. Some are triangular, but most of them, and then the other ones are like, it's either rectangular or triangle, but there's very few flags that are wider at the end. Remember, I cautioned you all about this, to keep it in a rectangular form. So even before I play this measurable distance, it's less than the end. So it looks weird before I even play it. All right, so how many drawings are in this, Damien? Again, I can't see the chat, so someone...
They said 8.
8. Well, I give you credit for trying to put the texture on there, but look at the crease. The crease is going backwards. You have to, the crease should always go from the left to the right. So one of the corrections that I would request is that, and kind of look at this little roll over here too. Let me pause this. So I'm not going to draw, I'm just going to use my mouse. So this node moves to the right, and then it moves down, and then it's gone. So that's 4 frames. So if you have 8 drawings in a cycle, you've only really got 4, because this frame right here, I'm going to just leave my mouse right there, really was like this frame when you started. See that? So frame 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you've got a very limited number of frames for the cycle. If I go back to frame 1 and put my mouse right here at this upper node, how long does it take to get there? 1, 2, 3, and it's back again. So one thing to improve this would be to plot this out. Get this upper node to go all the way to the end in 8 frames, not just 4. Because at speed, it's moving very quickly. You know, and if And if that was okay, if the team, the animation, the game that you were working on didn't mind the quickness of the flag, it was only going to be on screen for a limited amount of time, then it might be okay. But my recommendation would be is to get the crease and the nodes to move in 8 drawings, all from one part all the way to the end, and keep it rectangular. And name your files correctly. Name your files correctly, or I'm going to find out where you live, and I'm going to bury funny things in your front yard. All right, Damien. Jeanette. Okay, the flag is working pretty well. Yeah, the flag is working pretty well. It seems to just be kind of this upper right corner seems to just not be wiggling around exactly perfectly, but and the creases are working great. And I appreciate that you tried the logo, but I think that you've got to get the up and down position. So if you wanted to do any kind of correction on this, I would just follow the node. So if this little, what is this thing, a flying saucer?
Yes.
So I would measure the distance, like this is your frame 1. And then, so measure the distance between the top of the UFO and the top of the flag, and just try to keep that consistent. So you see that in this next frame, it moved down a little bit. So it should be moving down. In fact, the better thing that you could do is to take this logo and move it so it's more in the center. It's right directly in between the upper and the lower node. And then it might be a little easier to track, because I think that it's the left and the right squishing and squashing and stretching are working pretty well. But as long as this little UFO is on its own layer, I imagine it's on its own layer, right?
Yes.
So just take it and put it in the middle, make sure it's dead center, and then follow the measurement so that it just goes up and down with the distance of the top and the bottom measurement. It might be all you need to do is just kind of fix it by hand.
Okay.
That looks good. I told you all not to do this, and a bunch of you tried it anyway. I like that. Okay, so this is all working here. This is all working. And I think that the tip is working fairly well. I think that you would just want to get a more pronounced circle 8 out there. But it's working.
The
It's great.
larger.
What's
Okay.
that?
The larger.
Yeah, just like I mentioned in the other ones.
Oh, the downward, the vertical.
Yeah, just the tip of it. So and I think it might be too small too. It's like your
Yeah.
tip is like this.
Yeah.
It might look better if the tip was like this.
Oh, okay.
Just make it like a regular 8, because let it fall. Let gravity take effect on it, and then the wind kind of pulls it up. It looks great. Hands for Jeanette, everybody. Okay, that's great. Randy.
Yep.
Careful those file names, Randy. You're pushing it. I don't think you need the K or the LAG. Yep, okay, that one's working. The only criticism I might have is that because of just this particular drawing, the actual distance, the measurement of the end of the rectangle, it's quite extreme here because this little shape right here, this is your rectangular measurement. Just keep that in mind so that it looks like it gets a little wide at the end. Remember, I made corrections to mine as I was doing that last week. So especially like that one and the next one, especially like the last two in the cycle. If you adjusted the last two in the cycle, I think it might work better. All right, it looks good though. And you tried this one.
Yeah, that one sucks.
Yeah, trying to get the little rollover is not easy, but you tried. It looks like you're doing what I suggested with animating those creases. And again, just with my grandma's story, it's just like, instead of trying to fix it, just redo it. You got I think the creases aren't moving perfectly. They start and they stop, and then they appear to go backwards. If you want to, you can watch the video and try it again. It might be worth it.
Yeah, it's really easy to get lost in creating those creases.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what animation is all about. I don't know any aspect of animation that isn't about following something through, tracking it through its arc, and timing and spacing. All right. But again, you get credit for even trying it. Rachel. Ooh, Rachel tried it. Two of them as well. Okay, the whole flag looks really great. I'm just worried that this corner's kind of stuck in 3D space up here. And remember what we talked about, where lines on top of each other will appear to die and they won't move. So if I put my mouse right here, there's a whole bunch of drawings where the end of the flag is right in the same place. And so do what you can, just get it to go to the left a little bit and then come back up. And then try to avoid any end of the right part of the flag looking like it's not rectangular. There are just a few places where it looks like it's got horns out there. It's just an aesthetic thing they just want to be careful about. See what I mean about those few drawings right there? Where the lines are just right on top of each other?
Yeah, I see that.
I mean, that's where the 15-mile-an-hour wind is the greatest. So 90% of it's working. You just kind of have to tweak that ending just a little bit. And then this is your ribbon. Okay, this one works really well. I think that when I'm making that suggestion of getting the circle 8 to let it drop, this is another way to get the circle 8 to work horizontally. And I think that it's working horizontally because you can see the left and right motion. So this one's working great. Rachel. Okay, great. Excellent. And you colored it too. It's always a nice little plus. Moses. He did 2 of them too. You are all becoming expert at this flag business. Okay, looks great. Yep, that looks great. And your ribbon. Okay. You know, the end it's technically just a little funky, but it's working. I think that you've got the same issue as some of your classmates about just the pointed end of the flag pushing out into space, but it's working. It's working really well. Moses, everybody put your wet fat flippers together for Moses. Put your wet fat flippers together. Evelyn. Yep, looks great to me. That little shadow on there is nice. Yep, that looks good. Looks really good. Oh, loop, sorry. Okay, so yeah, it's working. It's working really well. There's just one little thing that's catching my eye, and that is that this crease right here, it moves to the right. I left my mouse right there, and it moves to the right, and then it moves to the right again, and then it disappears. Oh, so this is the issue. It's not that, it's this one. So I'm going to go back to the first part of your cycle, and we're going to follow this crease right here. So I'm going to put my mouse right there. 2 frames, it moves to the right, and it moves, and it moves, and it moves, and then it gets caught up to this position, and it stops. So see right here between, oh yeah, I used to be able to do this in the QuickTime. So between, I think what is frame 6 or 7 and 8, these 2 creases are right on top of each other. This one and this one.
Yeah.
This one's moving, but this one's not moving.
Oh, okay. So I just need to move it.
It's just, I think it's the second to the last drawing.
Yeah.
Get that one to move and it'll be fixed.
Okay.
It looks great. Thank you, Evelyn. Clan happy for Evelyn. All right, so what I would like to do is I'm going to archive these. Okay, I'm going to go backwards here. I'm going to make sure that those wound up in the right folder. Oh, wait. What did I do? Oh, I see what I did. All right, good. All right, so I would like you to share my screen with you. I'm going to switch this over to my board. I teach a special effects class at the Academy, and we do a whole bunch of things all semester long, just 2D special effects. That's all we do. And I start out with pixieDUST. And I think this is a perfect example of how the pixieDUST works. This is a classic Cinderella moment. It's done with pencil on paper, and then the pixieDUST becomes white, and it's wonderful. And in this version, she transitions into her final shot. There are a couple other ones that are similar to that, but that's basically what the pixieDUST looks like. There's not a lot of them out there on Pinterest. Let's try that again. Yeah, you can see that it's not, oh shoot, I just put it away. Yeah, it's just, there's not a lot of them. Most of the stuff that's done with Magic, pixieDUST these days is all script driven in Unity. And so here's what fire looks like. And this one is interesting to me because it's non-traditional shapes. There's lots of geometry in there. It's moving like fire. There's a little bit of water coming down. So that's interesting. I mean, we could try that. This one is interesting. To me, I think that the idea is it's kind of like a flag waving in the upwards direction. It can be any color. You know, fire isn't always just red. Depends on the thing that's burning. If it's, oh, that's lightning, sorry. If you know, this one is intense, you know, we're not going to do anything like that. And this one is tons of detail. We're not going to do anything like that either. I like the one with the one in the hand. Keeping it simple. Yeah, we're doing all kinds of things. This one's interesting too. I like this one just because there's a slowness to it that, you know, I mean, you can see the nodes, right? When we do the fire, I will be talking about nodes, just like we were talking about with the flag. So it's something to think about. All right, I'm not getting a lot of immediate hits right at this moment. There's some images right there. Let me put this one away. All right, so what I would like to do then is I'm going to show you some the student examples of the pixieDUST. And so that might give you an even better idea of how I do it. All right, so, and these are just in a random kind of order here. Oh, hold on a second. All right, it's not the best, but that's kind of what it looks like. Let's look at some other ones. Again, these are random. I don't have them in my folder listed A, B, C, or D work. They're just by semester. I like the pixieDUST to spread out a little more. This is a really good example. Let's play that one again. All right, so that's a good example. Go to another semester. It's too contained. It looks too much like a ribbon. It's okay, but it's too contained. Absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. We would never be able to get that amount of detail. She's using a stipple brush in Toon Boom to get this effect, but that's just really, that's like the best example. So I'll just leave that one right there. Once again, we'll play that once again. All right, so that's an example of what the pixieDUST looks like. Let's take a look at the fire. Now the fire is going to be a little different because I embedded the fire in my volcano project. So I'm just going to play the whole volcano project. And we're going to do this in this semester anyway. Let me take a look at my notes. And this is something that you all can think about, that instead of just doing fire, that we could do the pixie dust first and have fun with it. And then I have our agenda set up to do pixie dust, smoke, and an explosion before we start doing a traditional walk and a run. Also water, and we can forget that and just do pixie dust for next week, and then do something like this, and let this be a 2-week project, which has got smoke and fire and water, right? So having said that, that's my teaching folder. So let's take a look at some of the volcanoes that the students had done. And I always tell them to have fun with it and to play around with it and do something different than me, but they always do something just like me. So that's one of them. This is a little more stylized. All right, you getting the idea here? Okay, getting the idea? All right, let's just see, let's look at one more. Smoke, fire, lightning. Smoke, fire, lava, pixie dust. All right, what's your take on this? So I'm stop sharing the screen so the chat window's open if you don't have a microphone. So let's talk. Elise,
I
Right.
like the pixie dust.
you like the pixie dust right now?
Mhm.
Anna? Moses is
Probably
like
the pixie dust.
pixie dust. All right, pixie dust it is. And then we'll do something with smoke and fire and water for the next one. Bless you, Elise. Was that a sneeze?
I was laughing
What did I do?
because, well, not many other people voted, but
Oh, okay. Yeah, but that looked like a sneeze. Do you always laugh like you're sneezing?
no, just this particular case.
This time? Well, I
Just-
think that you might want to adopt it. That's a strange antic for an animator to have.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you should adopt it and work on it.
I will.
No, you know,
Might
it
give me
looks
a
like looks like there's an alien spaceship in your room.
Yeah, there's a light.
The light is really bright.
It might be an alien though.
Is it a deity?
Oh wow, it is really bright.
It is. I like it. Talk about special effects. All right, so let's talk about pixie dust. I know Moses is like, yes, pixie dust. Okay, so I have my rough animator open, so I'm going to share my screen with you. All right. Again, this is a brand new file. There's nothing happening here yet at all. So let's just take it step by step. And you can ask me questions verbally because the chat thing's not on. If someone sees someone in the chat asking a question, those of you who do have microphones, just let me know. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch my background layer right here, and I'm just going to rename my background layer. Remember that oh, it's not going to let me do this. I always try to keep things named as simple as possible. That's fine. I'm just going to keep the background as background. In this background, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint it completely dark. So I'm going to pick, I'm going to stick to the purple and paint the background completely black. So it's just black. And I know that there's a couple of rules of art, and one of the rules of art, and really portfolio design too, is that you should never present your work against 100% black. Does anyone know why? When you're painting something in Photoshop and you see the RGB values as 000, that's black. If you see the RGB values as 255, 255 over 255, what is that color? Hannah?
White.
It's white. So think about this, everyone. If you're in Photoshop and you paint something, I'm not going to do that. And you see that the RGB values are 000. Oh, that's black. If you see if it's 88, 88, 88 for RGB, that's gray. If those three numbers are the same, if it's 10, 10, 10, that's just a really dark gray. If it's 100, 100, 100, it's just a medium gray. And now you know why some animators like watching The Matrix. You know what I mean? Because now all of a sudden you're seeing colors as numbers. You're not buying it? No one's buying it. Okay. All right, so layer one, this is going to be my arc layer. I'm going to bring up another layer, and then I'm going to move this layer on top of it. This is going to be my orb. I'm going to keep everything separate. Orb. I'm going to bring up another layer, and this one is going to be dust underscore 1. Come on, animator. Dust underscore 1, and another layer, and this is going to be dust underscore 2, and that should be enough that we need right now. That's all we need right now. All right, so on the arc layer, I'm going to pick a nasty, crazy color like yellow, and I'm going to do just kind of what you saw in those examples. That I'm going to draw an arc. I'm going to just draw some arc. Now think about this arc. I want to keep the orb moving from one position on the screen to the other. If I had the arc be going in perspective and it was going to die in the middle of a cavern or a crevice or something, it might take way too much time. So I don't want to do that one. I also don't want to make it look like it's just, really simple in front of the camera. I'm gonna worry about places where the arc is too close to each other. So I'm gonna try it again. So I don't like this. I like the idea of changing the direction a couple of times and flipping over once and flipping over again. I mean, that's okay. There's another option where you flip over big and then kind of stall and then go off screen. The arc truly doesn't matter in terms of aesthetics because it's just the track that the orb is going to go on. You're going to end up turning it off. If you have the orb stall here, there's a bunch of pixie dust that's going to fall downwards. And then you're in for a bunch of frames. You're in for a bunch of 20 drawings just right here of the pixie dust falling before it goes off the screen. So it's something to think about. Again, you can do the arc any way you'd like. I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to think about my cinematic thirds. I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to loop it once, medium. I'm going to loop it the other way, bigger, and get it off the screen. That looks okay. This is okay for a demo. That's my arc. All right, now on the orb layer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a bright red. And I'm in my pencil tool, and I'm going to let this first frame last for 8 frames before I draw anything. Because when the shot starts, your eye needs a third of a second before you start tracking what's going on with any kind of action on the screen. So when you can, as an animator, always give yourself an 8 frame handle. That's 1/3 of a second where nothing is happening, so that the audience can register their eye to it. It's always a good thing. Sometimes you don't have that choice. If it's cycling, you don't have to worry about it. But for here, this is more cinematic. So we're just going to give ourselves 8 frames of nothing. Then I'm going to add a frame afterwards, and it's going to give me 8 frames. So I'm going to take this down to 2s, right? And then I want to take my orb and bring that out with it. And I'm going to let it go out. This is going to take about 5 seconds, which is about 120 frames. So I'm just going to let it go all the way out. I'm going to squish my timeline here in just a moment. All right, so that's 5 seconds. I'm going to squish my timeline back down so I can see what I'm doing. And then on the orb layer here, I'm on 2s, and I'm just going to very quickly draw my first orb. I'm just going to draw a little dot. I can always adjust the aesthetics, the art version of this later. I know that when we start a project, it's 1280 by 720. And I've had a little bit of problem with the Academy classes because they switched over to 1920 by 1080, which is twice. And because of that, I've had to adjust the timing and the spacing, because not only am I going twice the distance, it looks half the speed, but that means if the screen is bigger, it's going to be twice as long. And doing 10 seconds of pixieDUST is too much. It's going to take too long to do this. So I'm at 1280 by 720, so that's good. I know just from experience that the next that the next position I don't know why I'm not seeing my onion skin. Oh, I don't know why I'm not seeing it. What's that?
You have to click it to be on. Maybe it's off, like at the top there, underneath the play button. Maybe.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I thought I was working in Toon Boom there. Thank you, Hannah. 2 extra points for Hannah. Thank you, Hannah. All right, so, and it's weird that I made it red, because now when I click this is going to stay red. I don't care, that's okay. I'm going to move this out. So I'm going to have my pixieDUST move about 1/4 of an inch at a time. Wish there was a keyboard shortcut for that one. All right, right on this little loop right here, I'm going to cluster 3 drawings together just to slow it down just a little bit. It's going to give me just a little hesitation right there. And I'm going to contrast that in just a moment by speeding around this loop. And you'll see what I mean here in just a moment. So I'm going to keep my regular 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch spacing here until I get to the loop. All right, there's another thing that I'm thinking about here, and that is I charged into this picking red for my orb, which I may want to just turn this layer off or do another layer on top of this with a more pastel or white kind of color, because red is danger. I only picked red so I could see it better, and it was obnoxious, so that I knew that I was going to have to change it. All right, now I'm going to speed this up. I'm going to speed this up. It's going to come around the bottom of this loop just quicker. This is a good study for you all, just about the freedom of getting something to read, as making it fast or slow. Let's slow it down a little bit right here. Just a little bit. Stay consistent, stay slow. Pause for a moment. And then speed it up again. We got another big loop happening here. So go back to our original timing. Take one more pause right at this little loop right here. So right there, right where it's got that little corner. Slow it down just a little bit. And then speed it up. Let it be as fast as it's going to go in just one more drawing. That's about as fast as I want it to go right there. So let's just get this puppy going here. And I'm going to run out of frames. And I want to just take a moment to, I'm going to keep it fast. In fact, I might even want to zip it off the screen here in just a moment, just to see what it looks like. Oh, there's another thing. If you follow this example here, you're not going to get into too much trouble. And what I mean by that is that if you were to get the little orb to go off the screen in the upper part of the stage, then that means there's going to be a lot of pixie dust falling behind it. If it's a little bit lower, you're only going to have to get this amount of pixie dust right here to go off the screen. Let me add more frames right here. I'm going to go out to 150. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to add another frame. And I'm going to stay consistent with my timing and just get it to zip off the screen. And let's take a look at what this looks like. Now, if we were doing this in Harmony, I would have the ability to draw off the screen, but I can't do that right here. So I'm just going to make a mental note that there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more drawings out here where the orb is just going to zip off. And that means that the pixie dust that's being generated right here is going to be falling. Let's take a look, see what this looks like, just in terms of timing. All right, I think it looks okay. It's a good place to start. I think that if I were going to do anything, I might want to hold the pause right here a little more. I might want it to pause, but that's okay. This is just good for a demo. All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to a new layer. I'm going to take this dust and I'm going to do the same thing here with the original timing. And I'm just going to add a drawing after, and then I'm going to minus this one, and I'm going to take this one back down to 2s. And let's start to draw with more of a pastel kind of color. All right, so this is my first frame of pixie dust. I'm going to go to about 125. I'm going to move this over. there's a couple of rules. There's only a couple of rules. The first rule, let me do this on the arc layer here, just so that it lasts for the whole thing. The first rule is that the pixie dust needs to be clustered behind the orb as it's moving, but it also needs to spread out above and below the line of action, the arc that it's moving. More below, because that's what gravity is doing. So when I draw the first little dust down here, I'm just going to draw random little shapes. On my arc layer, which I'm going to turn off in a moment, I want to have a variation of little, medium, big pixie dust sizes. I want open circles, bigger open circles. This is kind of like the legend, even like a big circle. And then I want to have like 5-point exploding stars and maybe 6-point exploding stars, just for interests and variety. All right. All right, so now the orb is here, and I want to spread out my pixie dust going above and below the line. I want to keep a good amount of dust right behind. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to copy the orb so that I can turn it off. I'm just going to copy it. So remember that it's spreading out above and below the line. I'm going back and forth random. I'm going to add in a couple that are bigger. And then another rule here is that once you do this, you've got to get all of the little pieces of pixie dust that you just drew to fall. The pixie dust has weight, so it's spreading out above the arc and below the arc. You just have tons of little dots to draw. Back and forth. There's one more rule. Once you get to about your 4th drawing, you color in your orb, you get the other pixie dust to fall. And the thing is that none of the random pieces of pixie dust that you have drawn can be in the exact same position as any of the others. So cluster the pixie dust right behind it. That's where the vast majority of the pixie dust is going to be. And then all of the pixie dust that you've just drawn has to fall. And you don't have to track it exactly moving straight down, but you don't want to draw any pixie dust on top of any other one, because it'll stop. It's just like the same rule in animation. It won't move. So once again, copy your org, start at where it's leaving off most of it, get the spread to be on top of the arc and then below, and then zoom in on it a little bit. Now, when I'm doing this in Harmony, we have the ability to rotate the screen, which is nice. But it also affects your ability to understand where the gravity is. So once again, I'm looking at a random spread. And all of the pixie dust that you've just drawn in the 4 previous frames has to continue falling for at least 10, maybe 8 or 10 drawings. So I'm going to do one pass on this just to get a feel for what the main spread is going to look like. The other thing that I do in Toon Boom is that I use my pastel stipple brush just to draw a cloud. But we can't do that with the this animation program here. So we're just going to remember that.
I think I've seen on the brushes that you might be able to make your own custom brush.
I don't remember seeing a brush. There's the brush.
It might be on like the versions that have the squiggly line and stuff. You know how you don't have the line.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have Harmony open. Let me just continue. I might be able to think of another way to attack that. All right. So once again, it's slowed down a little bit here. again, the rule, don't draw any little dot on top of any of the other ones. Cluster the amount of pixie dust right behind it, and then it should be above the line, and then most of it is below the arc. And you could use little crosses. We're just going to do a couple of passes here. Remember, in order to get it to sparkle, all of the little dots that you're drawing can't be in any of the positions that you just drew. And don't make it look like a ribbon. This is magic. And so it's spreading out. It's spreading out and falling. It's like confetti. It's like paper confetti. A lot of times with the brush setting, if you have it, that you can do just like a little swatch of color in there and get it moving more quickly. This is just the old-fashioned way to do it. All right, again, above the line a little bit. And then below the line. We've got, this is our 8th drawing. And remember, one thing you want to avoid is you don't want this to look like a tail. You don't want it to look like a piece of cloth. These little pieces of confetti need the sparkle and just be kind of random. And we're going to pop them here in just a moment. We're going to pop 1 or 2 in just a moment. All right, again, same thing. More behind it, or more close behind it, and then it spreads out. And try your darn ding dang darndest to get make sure that none of these are on top of the other ones. And you just like have to keep going at this. It's put the music on and just kind of do it. Keep random, go back and forth. Someone in my effects class 2 weeks ago got in trouble because they put their dots in a perfectly straight line. And it was like, you know, it was like they were doing the cut marks on a piece of fabric for a pattern, like a fashion thing. Don't do that. Just think pixie dust, think confetti. It's got to be spreading up above and below. Think random. Think magic. The last thing that you want to do is to have to go back in and erase and try to fix. So the little pointers that I'm giving you here hopefully are preventing having to go back and redo anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple more. We're going to see what it looks like. Again, one of the things I'm looking for in the first test is whether I've got the spread below the line and above the line, whether the pixie dust is looking random. Right now I'm into my 9th drawing here and I'm still getting pixie dust from that first frame to be falling. I turned the opacity on the onion skin down because I just want to make sure I can see the thing I'm drawing. Now you know why I picked red for the orb, because it's obnoxious. You can just see it right there. So just get this, make sure you spread it out above the line, below the line. And then we're on drawing number 12 here. So let me give you a couple other pointers. Everyone listening? One of the things that you don't want to do is this. You don't want to do that little drag. This happens a lot with the stylists, is that they have the polycarbonate. This is a nylon tip and a polycarbonate surface. So this is really slippery. And so one of the problems with drawing digitally is you get that little hook on things. And unless you're going to draw the little hook over and over again, the idea here is to practice just drawing dots of confetti. And this is nice. I like this rough animator application program because it does have a nice built-in sensitivity so that if I push really hard, I get a fatter little piece of confetti. All right. That one right there I didn't like. I'm going to get rid of that one. That one. All right. I'm going to do a couple more before we test this. One of the things, the pointers now, is to just remember that this thing is moving to the right. And it's just like a sparkler. It's leaving a whole bunch of magic behind it. It's hot, it's fire, it's being pushed around by the air. It's also magic so that it can behave with the wind. Bullseye. All right, let's take a couple more. And right about now, so I've got about 12, 13 drawings into this. Right about now, the very first frames are starting to dissipate. They're starting, I don't have to worry about getting them to fall. This one is dropping. So I can let those drop all the way in here. And remember that there is a big, big, fat aesthetic difference between the shape of the cluster of the dots that make up the pixie dust looking like magic and looking like they were just a piece of fabric. You don't want to make it look like fabric. You want to make sure that they're spitting out, they're above the line, they're below the line, and that it's sparkling and that it's magic. It's confetti, but it's not a tail and it's not a ribbon. And I've always wondered in the years that I've been teaching this effects class that even repeating that thing too much, that the typical person, animator, student trying this for the first time keeps hearing me say, don't make it look like a tail. Don't make it look like a ribbon. And then they invariably, especially at the academy, I get like a whole bunch of them that look like ribbons. And I'm like, dudes, I told you not to make it look like a ribbon. All right, let's do a couple more. Well, it was because you kept saying the word ribbon, Mr. Billy. All right, so what I'm going to do now, it's going to be speeding up right here, right? We sped it up around this loop. So I'm just going to draw a few. I'm going to lay off doing the whole bit, and I'm just intentionally, because I want to make sure that it's visually going to be working okay. So I'm just going to do a couple here. And remember too, that once I do this, it establishes a keyframe there, and then I could just use my arrow keys, my greater than and less than sign keys to toggle through it, and I don't have to keep adding a drawing. All right, so let me stop right there. Go back to frame number 1. Let's take a look at how this is working. Elise, you didn't see it. You weren't looking. What do you think? And play. It's working. I think it's working okay. So now I'm just gonna arrow through this, and I'm gonna turn the onion skin off because I just want to see it. So I'm just navigating with my greater than and less than sign keys. It looks weird when it's going backwards. There might be a little bit too much on that frame right there. Okay, so, but it's not looking like a ribbon, right? And I intentionally left off on this frame. So with the same color, I'm going to turn my onion skin back on. And remember too that now you just concentrate on the red. Just concentrate on get the pixie dust falling that is red. Don't worry about the green. And we're doing pretty well here for the timing on our first pass. It's not taking too long. But remember that all of these little pieces of confetti right here have to fall for a bit before they die out. And cluster a whole bunch more right behind the magic orb. And again, spread them out. Get a bunch of pieces of pixie dust above the line and below the line. And make sure that it's not dragging, that these guys are falling down, that it's leaving the magic behind. It's not dragging it. It's kind of one of those things you want to feel about the magic rather than actually writing a principle about. All right, you can see that I'm just jumping back and forth randomly. And this is just to accomplish the first pass. Let it die out about right down here. Let it die. There's a whole big cluster that's happening right here. All right, and I forget. So let a couple be above the line right here. Now it's going straight down. This is the first time we see this guy going straight down. And there's going to be a difference in the spread here when we get to this part. You'll see it in just a moment. All right, so I've got a couple over here. We want to keep these guys going for just a frame, even though they were from like frame number 11 or 12 or something. Just keep those going, spread it out. All right, so now this is above the line. And now this is technically below the line. So this gets a little tricky here because these little pieces of confetti are falling on top of the ones that you're going to be making here in just a moment. And remember, we're only doing the cloud right now. We're only doing the main cluster. We're going to go back in and do a pass on the exploding stars. We're going to do a pass on bigger ones. We can add another color to this orb. Toon Boom has a bunch of really great features in it that allows you to play with opacity and transparency and blur, and there's a whole bunch of things that you can do. But here we're going to do it the old-fashioned Disney way. So another thing that I would like to point out here is that these guys, these gals right here came from this part of the arc. See it right there? Just nod so I know that my microphone is working. So that means that when these guys came in here, when this orb was right here, it was like drawing number 12. So we've still got pixie dust continuing to go off the screen, even though we're on frame 45 now. So that's something to think about, that when we get over here, it's like, uh-oh, you know, there's just a lot of dots to draw. But the really cool thing is what an effect it makes. All right, so let's draw a couple more. And remember too that one thing that you can do is do like a first pass like I did, and a second, third, fourth pass. Keeping them all in one layer allows you to just use your greater than and less than sign keys. Now it's when they're crossing over. This little cluster of pixie dust here, these are falling downwards. This is the new stuff. Cluster it right behind it. Go to the next one. Now let's do the same thing. Let's just kind of peter this cluster out here and just establish our keys. Because we're going to have a lot to draw right in these few frames here, but let's just get it going. And drawing the orb as white now will also reinforce our timing. So let's just put a couple right here and right here. And we're at 175% of the stage. So I want to come back out to 100% just to get a feel for how much more work we have. All right, so right about there we'll stop. I'm going to come back out to 100%. I'm going to save this. I haven't saved it yet. That's always a dangerous thing. This is going to be Billy B underscore PD for pixieDUST underscore version 1. That's my desktop. Go back to frame 1. Let's play. All right, everybody watching? Elise, watching? Jeanette, everyone watching?
Yep.
All right, somebody check and make sure that someone's not asleep. Okay, here we go. All right, so aesthetically, as an animator, what I'm thinking is that right here, right when this puppy is at the top of the orb, and I'm on my orb layer right now, so I'm just gonna kind of go through this. I think I want to slow it down just a little bit right in here, just a little bit more so that I can play with the pixie dust that's falling right here. So right here, I'm going to add a frame after. So that's an open frame, I believe. That is an open frame. So I have to make sure that the one I'm on is red. And then this one. So I'm gonna draw my orb right here. I think that's the right one. And I'm just gonna in between these. So this one should be red. Okay, now I'm gonna add a frame after. All right, so that's my open frame. And I'm gonna, and again, remember these are white now. I'm just sticking with my orb color. And I'm gonna draw one more. So this should be, that one right there should turn red. I'm gonna add an open frame after. And I'm gonna in between this one. And I think I wanna do maybe just one more. Let's see what it looks like. So that one on the top right there should turn red. And then I'm gonna add one more. All right, so I just added 3 or 4 more orbs right there. Let's take a look at that timing because I want it to pause right there because then we'll contrast it with the really speedy off bit. All right, let's take a look at that timing. Yep, I like it. So that's a nice contrast in pace. All right, so, and you can see that the color shifts in there, but that's okay. All right, so what I'll do now, let's do a couple, let's go back to our frame 1. Let's go back up to 175%. Let's move over so we can see what we're doing. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do 2 different passes at the same time. Now, if you ever have the chance to work in Toon Boom Harmony, there's something really wonderful that you can do, and that is that you can do an entire pass on the same level that's a different color, and then go back in and change that color for every pixel of color that you've drawn for your entire shot. Here, we're gonna have to just kind of do either one of 2 things, and that is that we're gonna keep our pixie dust the same and add to it, right? Or we're gonna go back in here and we're gonna say, I'm gonna add this paint chip here, and I forgot how to do this. I forgot how to add the paint color. Oh, you just drag it. See that, everyone? You probably already figured that out.
For mine, I can just click and hold in the color, kind of, not in that section, but in your chosen square. if you click and hold, the current color becomes the color that you.
Right. All right, but I can see it there. It's that little pink color we've got. So that establishes our swatch. For this one, I'm gonna pick just a little blue. I'm gonna pick a new blue. And I'm gonna drag that. And I don't think I can change that, but we're just gonna stay with it. I'm gonna come in at about a 200%. And I'm just gonna add in, and you don't wanna do this like for every single thing. You don't want all of your little circles to be blue, because that would be strange. You don't want all your exploding stars to be yellow, because then that's just not right. But for this one, we're just gonna, so for this one, we're going to add, we just added that little blue circle right there. And what I want to do is I want to just track this little blue circle and to see the timing on it. So I'm going to just do one of them, and it's right at the edge of the screen. So, and it's not going to gain speed. It's just going to keep the same. It's just going to stay the same speed, and then it's going to kind of die out. It might just get a little smaller. And so what I'm doing here is I'm testing the spacing and the timing at the same time of just this one little bit right there. And it's in the blue. So right there. So okay, now let's go back and look at just that little blue thing. Just play it. All right, so it looks good. I don't have to play any more of it. That looks fine. So, and I've got two colors now in my palette. So on frame 1, now I'm gonna pick a yellow, and we'll just do an exploding star starting about right here. And exploding stars follow that same basic timing right there, that basic same kind of spacing. And they usually lasts for about 5 or 6 frames, depending. And they can spin, but here's the basic set of principles. And it can be anywhere. So with my new color, I'm going to drag this color to my 3rd space. And I'm going to pick an open space right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with just an X, a little 6-point star right there. And I'm going to draw it big enough so that I can see it. It's already keyed in to frames on my dust layer. So all I have to do is hit the greater than sign once and twice. And now I can see the red. So remember the spacing over there. It was about this far. The problem is there's a white one right there. So I'm going to slow it down a little bit. And I'm going to draw just a 6-point star, just like this. I'm going to start in the middle and try to get the sharp points of the star to be out on the edges. I don't want some fat lines at the edge of the exploding star. Let's do the next one, and now track it. So it comes down about this far, and it just explodes. So make that little open circle just a little bigger. And remember, it's not speeding up or slowing down. It's just exploding. All right, the next one, go 2 frames out. And now it's going to come down just about this far, but I'm going to bring everything just a little more slowly. It's just going to explode right on top of it. So I don't have to move it. I'm just going to take the next frame. Oops, I went too far. Hold on. Okay. Oh, I went too far. Okay. So now I'm just, it's not moving downwards. This stuff is just magic. It's got its own little space. It doesn't have to move down anymore. One more. So now this part just kind of dies out. You could do one more after this if you want. And let's just take a look at that so that everyone follow the rhythm that we just created right there. Let's take a look at it. Watch for that exploding star. See it? Now you don't want to do hundreds of those. It'll take you weeks. Pick your stage. You know, if you were going to be precise about it, I don't know, if you're going to go to your arc layer and say, I want like an exploding star right here with the yellow, and then I want another one here, and then one here, and then two right here, one here, and then one here. That, and remember, we just did that on our arc. And so you can just make a little map so that you don't get confused. So those are your exploding stars. You just got a handful of them. That's a dramatic pause right there, by the way. Do you like my dramatic pause? All right, so there's a couple other things that I want to mention here. Testing it, just going back and making sure that the first thing that you want to do is make sure that that orb is moving how you want it to be moving correctly. Right now, we've got about an hour or so invested in this. And one thing that would be horrible is if the timing of your QuickTime movie varied greatly from the way you animated it. So even though this play button seems to be working okay, I am going to, before I spend any one more minute on this, I'm going to export this. Version 1A, desktop, QuickTime movie, save. And let's take a look at how it looks in the QuickTime movie, just to make sure that I haven't got into trouble anywhere. Okay, it looks okay to me. I'm going to throw this away. I don't need it anymore. Just throw it away. All right, so that's a big, oops. That's a big thing. It differs if you're working on a computer that doesn't have a lot of RAM, or that your stage is bigger. When the QuickTime movie plays, the QuickTime movie is a professional audio video player, and it will play exactly what the animation application told it to do. And so if it seems like it's moving slower here, but it's playing faster in the QuickTime movie, you're going to have to compensate for that as an animator. All right, so let's go back in and do a couple other passes. So the first couple of frames are okay. Let's zoom in on this again. And the next thing I want to do is look at my key. The other thing that I can do is, and I haven't done this in a while, so I don't know how successful I'm going to be here, but let's look at special effects. And I want to look at Hercules, Disney. And we're going to switch this to image. And I don't remember ever finding this very easily. You know, this is an example of some of the stars that you can draw. Here in Mickey, he's got like, well, he's got viruses for ears. He's got question marks. You could do all that. You could do all kinds of weird things. But in Hercules, they did all kinds of funky, weird things, shapes. They did squares. They did, you know, this is another example of the pixie dust and a lightning happening at the same time. There were just a whole bunch of strange, wonderful little shapes that they used. This is the textbook that I often use for my effects class. Joe Gilland authored the Elemental Magic Book 1 and 2. He was one of my supervisors on James and the Giant Peach. I never met him. He was working in Los Angeles, and we conference called from James. And I ended up meeting him years later at the Art Institute. And right now he's the director of the special effects department at the Vancouver Film School. And he's my hero. He's just, everything he does is wonderful. And I have a chance to work with one of my other heroes, and that's Kathleen Quaife, and she's teaching the other section of my special effects class. So I'm not seeing the special effects. I'm going to take Hercules out of this. If you're interested, one of the films that just takes my breath away is Pinocchio. The special effects are just incredible. They're just absolutely astonishing. the pixie dust, the sparkles. Watch when Monstro chases Pinocchio and Geppetto. The shots just must have taken forever to put together. Amazing special effects, absolutely amazing. The other thing that you might want to do is be aware that in a certain amount of time, Pinocchio is going to be coming out in stop motion, and it's going to be directed by Guillermo del Toro. And so it's going to have a really dark feel to it. I don't know if you know Guillermo's work. You know, I'm so excited. It's being done up at Shadow Machine up in Portland. Shadow Machine is the studio that did BoJack Horseman. They're doing they're doing Pinocchio in stop motion. Here's one of the production stills from it. It's going to be puppets. You know, I'm sad that they're not going to have a world of 2D effects on top of it, and that they were going to hire me and that I had to move to Portland, you know, but I guess I'm over that. But look, isn't this cool? This is just crazy. It's going to be wonderful. And I believe
Really cool.
it's coming out in 2022. I think it's slated for 2021. Wait, does it have a release date yet? It started in 2019. Well, just pay attention. Pay attention to the world and be watching for the stop motion Pinocchio. Okay, so we've done what time is it? I can't see my screen. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. So let's do what I was just kind of talking about here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add another color to my palette, and we're going to do just a spinning spiral. Everyone okay with that? All right, so in order to do this, I'm going to use a pink. And I'm going to keep the pink kind of light. I want everything to be pastel in here. And we're going to start about right here. We're going to start about right there. Okay, this is good. So right here, I'm just going to start my spiral. In an open space. This is my orb, and I'm just going to start the spiral. So that was a counterclockwise spiral. I'm going to go 2 frames out, and now I can see it was right there. And now I'm just going to drop it at the same rate. Everything moves at the same rate. Nothing is funny. But instead of starting the loop at the top, I'm going to start it at the 3 o'clock hour. And I'm just going to get it to go like that. And this is moving a little slow, but that's okay. Now I'm 2 frames out. Now I'm going to start it at the 6 o'clock hour. And then this one I'm going to start at the 9 o'clock hour. And I'm going to make it a little bigger. And at this one, I'm going to start at the noon hour again. And I'm going to make it a little bigger. 2 more. And I'm going to let this one be the 3 o'clock hour. And now I'm just going to hint that it was a little spiral. It's exploding. So I'm just going to hint that it was a spiral. All right, 1 more. And I'm going to, this is just going to disappear about like that. So this one just kind of fell and disappeared. I'm going to do 1 more just so that I can remember that that's where it was. Okay, so now we're going to look for those frames in this playback. I'm going to save it. So watch right there. See it? So that was another thing that you can do. You've got the main cloud, the main cluster of dust, which is your main job. So go through and do the whole thing, and then do bigger ones. So let's do bigger ones now. So I'm going to go back to my original white kind of color. And this frame is already done. All right, so 2 frames out. This is already done here. This one is close. I'm only 3 frames in. I don't have to worry about it. Put just a little smattering of little ones. Next one, here, we need a big one in here. See how, if you squint at it, see me squinting? So I'm gonna just draw like a big one right here. Now I'm gonna follow it through and I'm gonna keep it at the same speed. And I'm just gonna drop it at the same speed as the other ones. And again, trying to make sure it doesn't wind up in the same place as any of the other ones I've drawn. And right about here, I'm just gonna dissipate it. So now it's just gonna go away. So now it's just going, I'm gonna go backwards and make that one a little stronger. So now we're gonna look for just that bigger one. All right, it feels good. So it's just a bunch of passes. And you can tell that that one little star that we had right there just totally caught your eye, right? So it's not hard. This is not hard at all. You just have to kind of put music on, fast playing Björk music or the Sugar Cubes or some sort of fast banjo music, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, something really fast, and then just go and do it. So let's do a couple more big ones. We're in big mode right here. Now the danger is that these two, you don't want them to disappear on the same frame. So I'm going to kill that one there. We're going to go back and do the main cluster here. These are looking okay. We're in the main cluster, a lot more right on the arc, because that's where the main confetti is. We're going forwards in time. And some, I can see we left off about right there. All right, keep going. We kind of left off about right here, we left off. All right, so you can kind of see that the whole trick here is doing it in passes. Don't try to do it all at once. You'll drive yourself bonkers. You don't want to be bonkers. It's good to kind of not want to have to do the main cluster all at once and to test your prowess at doing the different shapes, the spirals, the exploding stars. Just so you give yourself a little variety of things that you're doing. This should take you about 4 hours. 4 hours total. Remember that the key here, like on this frame right here, you want this to be spread out, but then all of this stuff is falling too. So you're going to have to get the little loop in there. And again, I'll say it one more time. You don't want this to look like a ribbon. You don't want it to look like it's a piece of cloth. It's magic and it's random and it's floating around all over the place. And this is where we left off. So now this stuff is all spreading out evenly left and right. And this stuff is continuing to go downwards. And then this is still going downwards. You know, that's a little trick, is that this stuff right here is going to fall for at least 4 or 5 more drawings. And it's good that we did that little exploding spiral, because now you know to stay away from it. So that's another little logic in our process, is that if you do just the cluster first and get the timing working first, and then figure out where you want your exploding stars to be, like we have to do one right here, we'll have to go back and do that one. But if you do it this way, then you know that you can keep the confetti away from this exploding spiral that you just did. All right, so at this point, I've been doing the demo for a good hour, and I know what I was doing. So hopefully I've given you enough instruction here that you're not going to make too many mistakes, and that you can just go and you can plow through it and make it awesome just the first time you do it. just to reiterate a couple of points. You want this splay to be random. You want to make sure that it looks like the orb is spitting out hot, magical pixie dust. And it needs to be random. Even this orb right here can spit out a little piece of pixie dust way over here. You know, you don't have to be absolutely scientific about it. It can be, there's an artistic value to this. The science comes basically in this stuff that's falling. This little curl here has to come around. All right, keep going here. And I'm looking at the timeline, like right here, I'm about a third of the way through it, and I'm trying to do this in real time so that you all have a feeling for how to do it, how to make it look awesome the first time, and not have to panic and redo it. All right, remember this stuff is falling. That's the one that came from up here. This part of the arc is still present. And this is too straight. So I want to get more random dust out here. You only need a couple. All right, then I can see that the next frame is where we stopped. What are we, about 9:15? All right, so let's do a couple of things here. I'm gonna pause right here because this frame is where we stopped. I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna turn my arc completely off. And let's play this. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Let's let it play one more time. And that's, and me showing how to fix that top of the arc right there was an important thing. I think you could even slow it down a little more. So let's see what this renders like. And let's just pick B. Even though A is gone off the desktop, let's just pick B. All right. And you can see by our timeline that it's about a third of the way through it. So it should take you about 3 or 4 hours to do this. Let's take a look at this one more time. Let's see some of the shapes that she had in there. So she's got these little brush marks, which you can kind of tell are the pastel brush in Toon Boom. She's got a great big green on the orb, right? And she's got dots and bigger dots and then circles. And then she's got exploding stars. You know, it looks really good. Let's one more time, take a look at that one more time.
Billy, you think you could share that for us to reference somehow?
Kit PX MP4.
Thank you.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Let me find it. Yep, it's this one. So I will, it is 2.5 megs. So I'm going to copy this and I will paste it into the classroom in just a few moments. I'll paste it before I paste the Zoom recording. It's fun. The Disney studio started doing special effects sometime around Pinocchio, and they were hooked on it. Everything after that, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, all from Cinderella all the way to Sleeping, from Pinocchio all the way to Sleeping Beauty, from Pinocchio all the way to Beauty and the Beast. That was like the special effects era, and it wasn't hard. It just took a bunch of time, and it was fun. there was a big transition in those days where the animators were putting in the pixie dust as black pencil marks on white paper, and then the ink and paint artist has to go and painstakingly copy every single stupid little pencil mark in white paint on the clear cells. And it just took forever, but it was wonderful. It's one of my favorite things to do. As far as I know, I've been teaching at the Academy for 4 years now, and I'm the only one who runs that effects class because it gets like 13 people and it never gets more. I've never had 2 sections. And so it's fun. The whole idea is fun. If you're struggling with it, you're doing it wrong. If you're having a hard time with it, you're doing it wrong. You just follow those simple rules that I gave you about any of the little dots not being on top of any of the other ones, and that they fall straight down, and that it doesn't look like a cloth or a ribbon. Make sure that they're spreading out above and below the line, and then just be random. Do it like I did it. Go back and forth, left and right, up and down and back and forth. Do one pass, go back and do another one. Go back and do 25 different passes. And then you'll know you're doing it right once you've spent the first hour on it. It's like, oh, this is going to be great. Right? All right, it's 9:20. I don't have any comments in the chat. Anybody? Nothing? The example, Kit used this rust color. You don't have to use black. It's just that if you use black, all of your light colors will have a really big contrast. If you use a very, very dark gray, same thing, it's good, because then all of those tiny little dots that you draw, all those little tiny little pieces of confetti are going to have a greater contrast. There was one student, when we start with this one in my class, in week 2 of this semester, boy, he just had tons of tiny little ones in it. You would have never seen them if he wasn't using black. So again, there's just a logic to artists using black anywhere, because it'll blow out your contrast. And I don't think I said that. I started to say it, but then I got screwed up with my matrix analogy. The idea is that if you have a photograph and you want to present the photograph, it's always best to present the photograph against something that's like 80% gray. Kind of look at these swatches here in our Zoom class. You can see the separation between the black and my black coat is got a big contrast against the gray. Here, don't worry about it. Use 100% black if you want to. And make it, like I said, in our demo, we started at about 5 seconds, but the last frame is 150 frames. So it's well into 6 seconds, but don't be scared about 6 seconds. Oh, and remember, once the orb goes off the screen, the pixie dust still has to fall for at least 10, 12, 14 more drawings. And that by the example I gave you, that I kept look at the little window, I kept the little arc near the bottom, because if I had it going off the top, like up like this, then all of this would be raining down for 20 or 30 more drawings. And it would just take forever. The last little pieces of pixie dust really just fall off the screen instead of decaying. Okay, you got the idea? All right, make it wonderful. The idea would be is to do this and to make it so crazy that it leads your show reel, that you go like this, and then your name appears, Hannah Joy, right? That would be one really wonderful way to lead your show reel. Zip, 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 Billy B. And then it all falls apart, and then it goes into character animation. Then you could do that too. You could just draw your name and then have it sparkle around, and then your name follows apart. Be creative, have fun with it. The only one who's not allowed to have fun with it is Timmy,
What?
because he's mean.
What do you mean I'm mean? You
Timmy
started
is-
it, Billy. You're
Timmy
mean to
is
me, so I
like
become
a
mean to
kitten.
you.
Timmy is like that kitten that your mom brings home, and he's 8 weeks old and he bites everybody. Oh, see, he didn't deny it. He didn't deny it. Timmy, the kitten that bites.
You got me there, Billy. You got me there.
I knew it. I could just tell by looking at you. All right, make it awesome, everybody. I'll see you next week.
All right, take care, Billy. Have a good week.
All right, the recording will be up in YouTube shortly. And Hannah, email me about your portfolio question anytime you want.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and it was funny because I have a list of 40 or 50 websites from like the last 2 or 3 years when I was at the Art Institute. And about half of them are inactive, but you can click and see what student website portfolios look like, at least some of them.
Okay.
The last
Where do
time I
go to find
looked,
that?
here,
Is it in
I'll-
your email?
no, what I'll do, I'll try to drop it in the chat. Let me see if I can drop it in the chat. We're gonna try this one more time, right? Oh, it's not working. I put it over on the right side of my screen, and I'll put it up in the class. It's a Word document. The links are clickable. I apologize because probably a good half of them aren't active anymore. The students make their website and then they give up and they go back into engineering, or they become nurses. I don't know. I don't know what happened. So yeah, I'll put those things in the classroom, the example and the grad doc. And I'll put the link to the Zoom up within the hour.
Thank you, Billy.
Okay, you're welcome.
I just have a question about the pixie dust.
Yes.
Can I do a bee? Can I make it a bee with like pollinating flowers?
Yes. Be careful. Be careful.
The only problem I'm thinking about is the background, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah. I think that if you have the flowers and you have the bee, and so instead of an orb, you have the bee, right? Don't, let me say this as clearly and as concisely as I can. If you had the idea that this is a flower and a flower's over here, and that you wanted the bee to come in and go and land, and then he was going to like buzz around, there might be time in your space in your timeline where not a lot is happening or nothing is happening, and then the bee flies off and then goes to the next flower, and then there might be, while he's goofing around with the flower, he might be just wiggling around a little bit. There's like not a lot of animation. But the problem, what's the problem?
I'm not practicing pixie dust.
When he lands on his first flower, all this pixie dust has got to go away.
Right.
While he's doing nothing. And then he goes like this, and then all this stuff is going to have to fall. And when he's over here goofing around, this stuff is going to have to fall. Then he goes off. So it's just going to increase the time in your timeline.
Okay.
Right. So you're not going to have 6 seconds anymore. You're going to have 12 or 14 seconds. What I would recommend is,
I think I'll just have him do the regular thing, and it's like a bee. It's just a bee, and he's going over the flowers. I don't think I'm gonna.
yeah, you can do that, but so I'm just gonna draw for you for just a moment. So if you wanted to do like he lands on the flower, remember that all this stuff has got to fall down, and then just plan on him I mean, he could be here for like 3 seconds, and then he's just going to be doing nothing. That would be fine. Don't go over 3 seconds. And then he's going to go over here. He's going to land on this flower. Just do it twice.
Yeah.
Use your left and right focal points. And then he's going to only be here for 2. So this is 72 frames, and then this is 48 frames. And then have him like, whoa, go off the screen, right?
Okay.
So don't worry about your timeline, but just remember that all of this stuff is going to have to go off. And then when he's over here, all of this stuff is going to have to go off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this will be regular. So all you're doing is taking your project and doing 3 separate versions of it.
Okay.
For the bee, draw yourself a bee. So this is your orb, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just draw this as your orb and have the bee just go as the orb and land and land and land. And then put another layer on top of it and draw 1 set of wings that are down.
Oh.
And then another set of wings that are up. And then another set of wings that are all the way down, like over here.
Oh.
So you just do 3. And then think about it. It's like
Alternate?
middle, up, down.
Because bees go fast.
And
yeah.
then once that, and then get that working, the wings are beating really fast. Put little blur lines on
Awesome.
all of it.
That's so cool.
Put little blur lines just to see if it works.
Yeah.
Now remember, you've just complicated this. Made this, this wing thing is going to be complicated. Do the wings on a separate layer so that you don't get in trouble. And the bee can go upside down right here. Right? You could be upside down.
Yeah.
But yeah, just use 3. Middle, up, down.
Middle, up, down. Okay. Thank
And
you.
keep the design of the bee simple.
Yeah, because I'm gonna have to draw.
Black, just use black. Don't use black and white. Use white and yellow for the bee.
I'll just do a bumblebee so he's like tiny. He just like there's not many body
Yeah.
parts. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Got it?
Awesome. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, you're welcome.
Bye.
Ciao.